How's it going, folks? Pre-intro Jack here, just a quick little heads up that today we are streaming on Twitch. We're going to be kickstarting the Season 17 pre-season at Town Town. I hope to see you guys at 5 PM. That is 5 hours after this video has been up. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to get an announcement, kind of tweet thing, exactly when it's going on, or of course hop on the Discord. Hopefully I see some of you guys there, and enjoy the rest of this end of season wrap-up. What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 156 of Park to Prem here with Town Town. Before we get into this video, just a heads up, if you didn't see yesterday's video, it was the end of season 16 live. 3 matches, the Premier League conclusion. I want to say it was probably one of the best episodes of the series in terms of drama, so if you haven't seen it already, please do go back and watch it. Today we start on the profile of Alex Boyo. This man, a player we signed for a hefty chunk of cash at the start of the year, £15 million from Birmingham City. But he is now listed as our hot prospect at the club and a player who, well, the board and the staff have a lot of expectations around. At 18 years old, I would love his vision to be a little bit better than it is for a centre mid. But over the course of this year, you can see he's really made some good improvements. And I don't know, at 18 years old, it feels like he could well be ready for a semi-squad role in the first team next year. He really has improved to that degree. But anyway, we're not going to talk about Alex too much today because we've still got one last game of the season. And just as a reminder of what that one last game is, it is, of course, the FA Cup. We are taking on Man City, a chance to treble. A treble that would consist, of course, of the UEFA Super Cup, the Premier League, and the FA Cup. A bit of an unusual treble, really. But it's something that we can aim towards, it's something we can shoot towards. And then following on from this game, we are going to do a little bit of a squad review and a season review. Obviously, season 16 coming to a close, it's a good chance to look back on things and see how everything has gone. So anyway, it's been a week since you were last here, so it's been a good chance to give the players a little bit of rest. A few players picked up little knocks like Volta. Unfortunately, Kaiser out injured as well. Means that there is a little bit of rotation in the team, but for the most part, this is your title-winning team. This is the team that did it all. I will say, based on Turnbull's performances last episode, I feel like I have to bring him in because he has been so important for us. You can see he obviously scored against Everton, scored against Watford, really got the goals when they mattered for us to help us. And you can see he always comes in clutch with the late 80th minute goals. And well, hopefully it doesn't come down to a late 80th minute goal today against Man City, but we will do our bestest to avoid that. I suppose. Bestest. Is that a word? Bestest? It doesn't sound like a word, does it? Anyway, let's get into this game. It is Wembley. It is the FA Cup. This is the cherry on top of the season. I would be a little bit annoyed if we didn't win it. At the same time, I'm still in such a jovial mood from winning the league. Like, anything could happen today and it probably wouldn't dampen my spirits. Anyway, I am going to get shouty from the off. Come on, boys, you can do this. I've got faith in you all. Nice and passionate, as is the WorkTheSpace way. And well, let's hope that we can put in a good performance. We're taking on Man City. We know their squad by now. I guess just as a quick reminder, looking at their squad, they've got Mike Frost up top. He's quite good. Of course, he's the reason we won the Premier League, because he managed to score against Chelsea in a 1-0 win. We've got Ashley Walker as well, an incredible player who we got to manage as England manager. They've got Karabali, one of the best playmakers in the world. When you look at this squad, you do kind of wonder how they managed to finish 4th or 3rd this season. Either way, they were a long way off the pace. They've got Valmir at centre-back. He's not really a centre-back. They've got Petit as well, who is a pretty good French centre-back, formerly of Villa, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. They've got a good team, and of course they've got an Mbappe. He might be 36 years old, but it is still Kylian Mbappe ultimately. And well, they're going to be tough opposition today, but... of course, last season we lost one league game in this season just gone. That one league game was against Man City. It was a 4-2 defeat. So maybe we can get a little bit of revenge against them here, although you would say it's going to be tricky, but I back us to at least give them a decent game here, as Mbappe has an effort. That has hit the woodwork. That is a warning shot in our direction. 15 minutes gone, the best chance of the game going their way. Not shown a great deal early on, so we're going to get shouty. It looks like Zidane is getting shouty as well. It's just a shouty affair on the sidelines right now. Leskinen's got a booking and we need to warn him about being sent off. I will say, he's been sent off twice this year and had, I think, over 10 yellow cards on top of that. It is a little bit concerning that Leskinen's just become really angry recently. Let's hope that he can keep his head on his shoulders, because unfortunately we've not got Kaiser on the bench due to injury today to bring on in his place. Anyway, Soretta spreading the play to Mateus Aurelio, a player who's had a largely disappointing season. Of course, he is the highest earner at the club at right back, but after last season where he got 20 plus assists, it felt justified. Hasn't really shown us that this year, although he's been involved in this build-up play here, which now finds its way to Turnbull. Turnbull manages to get the ball in, Shvetsov heads over, and well, it's the strike partnership that has been the strike partnership here at the club for, I think, 7 or 8 years at this point. It's weird, right? The idea that Turnbull and Shvetsov have played up top together for 7 years. Imagine the chemistry that a strike partnership that's gone on that long would have. I know Cancina's come in and kind of third-wheeled their relationship this year. But, I don't know, there's something quite poetic about it. Usually when you rise through the leagues like we have with Towler, you know, when you get to the Premier League, you end up replacing half the team. And whilst there has been a degree of that, you look at players like Soretta, Andre, you know, players who joined us when we got relegated back to the Championship, players like Turnbull who have been here, you know, since before then, obviously similarly with Shvetsov, and Matasevic as well has been here for a very long time. This isn't just a squad of Galacticos that we brought in to win the league. This is a team full of players who, for the most part, have been made at Towler. We've never had the money to sign pre-made kind of players who had, I guess, already hit their peak until this point. Where, of course, we've now got Claudio Holman joining us next year, which I think does mark the kind of start of a new era here at Towler. We are a club now that have that money to spend. We have that money to splash. This summer is going to be an interesting one, though. I will have confirmed it at the start of this video. Cuthbert, please don't score. Lovely save by Morrigan. I will have confirmed it at the start of this video with a little bit, so if you're hearing this, you already know or don't know. I may stream the off-season today as you watch this video on Twitch. I think it could be kind of fun, answer loads of questions. I've seen loads of comments recently saying, you know, can you show this player that you sold or that player that you sold? And the reality is, if I fulfill all those requests in a video, it's going to be an hour and a half long. So, yeah, I think we're going to be streaming the off-season. I will have confirmed at the start of this video the time that we are streaming. And that will hopefully lead into tomorrow's episode being the start of season episode, although those of you who watch the series a lot will know that sometimes I do need an extra day without a video during the off-season because it does take the best part of 10 hours because I play the game very slowly, and this many years into the save game, I'm not very quick at playing the game. And Morrigan, I don't know why I've said Morrigan there like it's his fault. Don't blame Morrigan, Jack. That is just an Ashley Walker special. Mbappe to Karabali. It's all the players that I mentioned linking up. Frost whips the ball in and then Ashley Walker hits it on the volley. Morrigan gets like a fingertip to it, but only onto the woodwork, and you can see it doesn't even hit the back of the net. It barely goes over the line. But it is in the back of the net there. We've really not shown up in this game. I'm tempted to do something mad, and I wouldn't normally do this, but I feel like the success of the previous episode has gone to my head a little bit. We're gonna mix things up, everyone. We are gonna bring in Cancina on the left. We're gonna bring in Steve Norman on the right. We're gonna play Matasevic and Andre together at centre mid because Leskinen's on a booking, and we're gonna go for it, everyone. We're gonna play our attacking style of play. We're gonna play on the front foot. Come on, boys. Show me what you're made of. I will say this 4-4, 4-4-2 or 4-2-4, however you want to look at it. It's a formation I thought I would end up using more this year, but I really haven't. And to be fair, when I have used it, it's not really paid off for us. Let's hope that today is going to be the exception. It's not a system that is completely untested for me in Football Manager. It's not like we don't know if it will work. You know, we've used it with England, we've used it with Towler before. It's just a case of It's not had the desired effect when we've used it, and while it may still not have the desired effect as Walker brings it forward, pulls it back to Herrera, who hits it, and that is a Morrigan blunder. I think he's actually off-sighted by the centre-back. There is actually, people don't seem to realise this, like line of sight is a thing in Football Manager. You may see offside decisions given sometimes where an offside player doesn't touch the ball, but he's in the line of sight of the keeper. I feel like Morrigan gets off-sighted here by his centre-back and Frost. Either way, he probably should do better. It's 2-0. I said sometimes this system hasn't had the desired effect. It absolutely hasn't here. We're going to have to go more direct. We're going to have to get the ball forward quicker. Let's not distribute it through the back. Let's get it over the top. Let's give it to Turnbull and Shvetsov to run onto, and the players in the wide areas to run onto as well. Time is just trickling away here. We have 10 minutes left. This has been such an underwhelming end to the year. I was hoping we were going to spank Man City to show that we are top of the dog pile. It's worth noting, Omar Gok, and I have to talk about this now while he's on the pitch because it feels fitting. Omar Gok is our former player, you may remember. Loads of people ask, Jack, is that your former Omar Gok playing for Man City last episode? It is. He's 24 years old. I'm going to be honest, he's not very good. He is robbing them blind at £120,000 a week. We signed him for 28k and sold him for 9 million, and I thought that was crazy profit made. Man City bought him this January for £27 million. He's not very good. He's not. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm not happy about it because it makes me look like a mug when he ends up at Man City. But he's not very good. I've said it. Even if he's playing for Man City, it doesn't prove anything. Even if he's lifting the League Cup, or not the League Cup, the FA Cup in front of us, doesn't prove anything. Right, boys, we need 2 goals here. We've got 7 minutes left. We've been absolutely shocking here. There's no reason to expect us to make a comeback, to be honest. This reminds me of the Atletico Madrid game in many ways, a game where we've just kind of gone absent. Can we have a late comeback, perhaps? The ball pumped forward in the direction of Shvetsov, who can't get onto it. We try and press Man City out, but you can see they're working the ball out nicely. Valmir here now with it to Herrera. Spreads it wide to Ashley Walker, who's got a player on the overlap, but may just go on his own inside. Goes inside. Soretta, what a tackle. Panico whips it in back, though, to Walker. I don't think Morrigan saved that. Indeed, he didn't. It went narrowly over. But, boys, 4 minutes. We need 2 goals. Can you do it? Nico whips it in. Ball in. Turnbull's there. He's offside. He's stopped celebrating, everyone. We all were expecting it. We all thought it was going to be a Turnbull 80th minute special that we'd bigged up. It's not meant to be. It just feels like it's one of those days where it's just not meant to be. I mean, if we can score here, maybe there's a chance, but the fact the ball is in our half and it's with Omar Gok is a little bit of a concern, although Matasevic wins it. Go on, you little Bosnian beast. Andre, forward. Shvetsov can't get on the end of it. Herrera. Bring the ball forward. Spreads it wide to Mbappe. At 36 years old, he's still got the legs to keep that in. Can he now get it into the box? He goes back to Gok, who crosses it in. Reyes is there. Morrigan tips it onto the woodwork. That is an insane save. Could we break? No. No is the answer. Andre, could we break? Maybe is the answer. Maybe is the answer. Shvetsov, maybe. It's saved. It's saved. It's a chance. I mean, they've had 1 clear-cut chance. We've had 3 half chances. It's not been a fantastic match, I'll level with you folks. Ball whipped in, headed away. Soretta, can you keep the threat alive? Back to Mateus Aurelio here. Plays it forward to Stevie Norman. Can he pull it across? Shvetsov hits it. Right, boys, 1 more. I'm starting to believe, everyone. It's very dangerous. I'm starting to get excited, and that is dangerous. We need to be more direct. We've got to go very attacking. I've told the keeper and the defenders just to put it into the wide areas to the inverted wingers rather than trying to, boot it over the top. I don't think that was really working for us. Either way, Norman, on off the bench, pulls it back intelligently. Shvetsov, lovely finish. Now the game is just not going to have any more highlights and it's going to be a really anticlimactic end. But I want to believe, lads. I want to believe. You've got 2 minutes. Come on, please. Nothing's happening. I could have called it. Man City win the trophy. Look at Zidane with his little bald head there, mocking me. Thinks he's better than me in his traditional grey suit. And well, unfortunately for us, Man City going to run out victors, boys. I'm not happy out there. I'm not happy with what I've seen. That is an underwhelming way to end the year ahead of this little end of season retrospective. We lose in the FA Cup final. Zidane, well done, mate. You're better than me for now. I will better him one day. You can see here, we were runner-up. That's the only kind of award we've been given. Troy Parrott, top goal scorer. Chai Stewart of Bath City, most assists. Look at him. A few years ago, he would have been our star player. How times have changed, hey? How times have changed. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But anyway, we're now going to go into the end of season portion of this video. As I've already mentioned, I will be streaming at some point today. I don't know the exact times yet. I will have added a little pre-intro bit in, I imagine, with a time. If not, you can check the top line of the description. However, as a result of that, I'm not going to start covering all former players and that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of stuff we can do in streams, or in the stream. But rather, we're going to be taking a look through the traditional checklist that I have in front of me. So, I think I need to continue a few more times to get awards even. So just as a little, I guess, pre-season amble, obviously going into this year, season number 16, we had won the Champions League, we had come third in the Premier League in a 2-horse race. We'd managed to go full on Tottenham in the league season that Leicester won the league. And so going into this year, the aim had to be to win the Premier League. In many ways, I would have taken the Premier League and having, accepted not winning anything else. Which I suppose is what we've had to settle for ultimately. We've lost in the Community Shield and the FA Cup, won the UEFA Super Cup, Carabao Cup, we lost to Liverpool in the quarter-final, lost in the quarter-final to Atletico Madrid. When you look back on this year, it's impossible to view it as a disappointment because, of course, we won the Premier League, but given the amount of finals that we were in, especially the FA Cup one, recently, those are games that ideally you would like to win. I suppose they don't detract from the fact that, yes, we managed to win the Premier League, which in my opinion is a lot more difficult to win, even more so to retain. You think about in real life how hard it is for teams to win the Premier League multiple times in a row. It just doesn't really happen, which is obviously going to be a big challenge for us going into next year because, well, frankly, we scraped by. I mean, it's mad that we scraped by 95 points because that's such a high points total. But the requirement to win the Premier League is near perfection at the moment for us. So, I think we feel like we met our expectations. Of course, in terms of transfers this year, there weren't really many. It was a weird summer. When you look at the signings we made, £108 million spent. But a lot of that was just future-proofing the team, signing players for the future, players like Gethin Collins, who is looking absolutely superb, 16 years old, signed for big bucks, really. He was the big transfer of January, or not of January, of the summer. Of course, Dio, the big signing of January from Botafogo, to come in and then be fifth-choice centre-back. I think he'll be a perfectly serviceable fifth-choice centre-back. There is part of me that with his wages wonders if I might be better to bring in a more experienced alternative to be our kind of squad player centre-back, potentially look to loan him out. I'm sure I can find a top-tier European team that will pay all of his wages. And with his good personality as well, maybe just super regular first-team football would really benefit him. And that's something that's probably worth exploring, I suppose, going into next year. Other players here, though, Alex Boyo, we talked about him before as being, the player listed as our key prospect and our hot prospect at the club. Really, really like the development we've seen from him. He's had some outstanding progress made. Of course, joined us from relegated Birmingham last year. Vincente Lara, a player for the future, on loan at Levante this year. I will say, really disappointed by this loan spell. He played 19 games for them last year, so when I signed him for £13 million and loaned him back, I thought he was going to go in and be their first choice keeper, and it hasn't been the case. As a result, his development hasn't necessarily stagnated, but it's not, kicked on like I would hope. But you know what? He's only just turned 19. He's still a very, very young keeper with a lot of potential. I feel like he can definitely be an understudy for Morgan, in the coming years. And I'm pretty optimistic that between him and some of the other goalkeeping prospects we've got, we're going to be in a good little position. Of course, there were a few other players we signed, like Fraser Parker here. He's only 16 years old, has shown some really, really good development already. Of course, part of our leasing.com trophy-winning side. Adam Kerr from Leicester, another player that we took a little bit of a punt on at 16 years old, signed for £4.6 million. He's shown good development, and as we talked about last time out, in the end of season kind of run-in, our youth teams have done so well this year. So that investment that we made, in our youth team has clearly worked. I mean, you look at these results here, this is ridiculous stuff. If we just look at the development league for the under-23s, which does ultimately end in a playoff between this first and second place team. But if we just look at this here, you can see we lost one game. We conceded 25 and 30, but scored 112. Compare our points total to any team around us. It really gives you an idea of how well our under-23s have been doing. And similarly, the under-18s have had a very good season too. You look at their fixtures, you look at their FA Youth Cup that they ended up winning. They won the UEFA Youth Cup. And then in the under-18 Premier League, if we just have a quick look, they won in the final. But again, looking at all groups, you compare us to all the Premier League big dogs here. I mean, between ourselves and Birmingham, two teams that just did absolutely superbly, and we spanked them in the final. We're in two separate groups, so we didn't meet prior, but you would argue, I guess, when you look at some of the teams in our group, ours is probably a little bit stronger with the likes of Manchester City's academy, United's academy, Liverpool's academy. Even teams like Norwich and Everton tend to produce some very, very good young prospects. So the fact our team did so well there really is superb. So yeah, transfers worked out well. It was a risky strategy, but I was quite content with the squad that we had, simply because our squad is full of players in their young 20s. You know, they're in their early 20s. They are entering their primes. They're not close to their primes yet. And so I know I saw a few comments, you know, previously drawing comparisons to the year where Manchester United did really well under Mourinho, didn't sign anyone and then fell way off the pace. I wasn't ever really concerned about that with our Town side because our team is so young. Our team is a squad that is only going to get better with experience. We won a Champions League last year. And so, you know, I could have potentially gone in and splashed a big cash, but ultimately, off the back of last season and the successes of last season, I wanted to give an opportunity to these players to prove themselves good enough to win the Premier League, and that's what they did this year. So it really worked out well, and of course, we did pitch the idea of maybe changing tactical system using the 4-2-4 more often, but ultimately, we stuck with what we knew, we stuck with what we've been good at, and it's worked out really, really well for us in the end. Anyway, you can see here, Mateus Aurelio inducted into the overall best 11. Let's have a quick look, shall we, at the overall best 11 here. Legends of times gone by, Henry Kumwenda, DKM. Where are you now, DKM? You're a free agent. You've been a free agent for almost the entirety of this year, having been signed by League Two Lincoln. Oh, please don't retire. Who else is here? Russel Shuttleworth. He's playing for Bristol City. He made one appearance in the Champions League as a starter. How the mighty have fallen elsewhere. Kumwenda still at the club in the museum. Andre Dezel is now a head of youth development. He may well be the worst head of youth development in the world. Obviously up top, Turnbull and Shvetsov, not entirely surprising. And in terms of leading the appearance way, Shvetsov has now pulled away from Turnbull in terms of appearances for the club because this year he has just been the nailed-on player for us. You can see 217 goals scored for us. And you can see this year Dylan Turnbull has surpassed Leighton Stewart as the second top goal scorer in the club's history. Anyway, if we have a quick look at the end of season awards, Claudio Cancino winning Fans Player of the Year. That is a little bit of a surprise, I will be honest. I was not expecting that. I was thinking Leskinen might win it. He got a 7.26 average rating in the league, to be fair. He had an exceptional year on the whole. Got goals in the Champions League, scored, of course, in the UEFA Super Cup. You know, he just kind of chipped in with goals everywhere. 19 goals, 8 assists in 43 appearances, a 7.29 average rating. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. Goal of the year was Andre against Walsall. Is it bad that I don't remember this goal? I think this would have been the FA Cup replay where we won 3-0. I mean, let's give it a watch, shall we? So Andre wins the ball here at the halfway line. He brings it forward. Was this worthy of Goal of the Year? Was it worthy of Goal of the Year? I mean, it's a good goal, but Football Manager, I feel like we scored some better bangers than that, to be honest. Leskinen won Young Player of the Year at age 24, which feels a little counterintuitive. 24 to me isn't a young player. I mean, if 24 years old can win you the Young Player of the Year award, 9 out of our starting 11 players could have been Young Player of the Year. And in fact, when you look at the squad, all but 3 players in our first team squad could have been Young Player of the Year. But I guess that is just a testament to where we are at right now. Anyway, you can see here the end of season review. We had a great year. Obviously, media prediction this season was to finish 4th. We surpassed that. We had, great progress on the pitch. Facilities off the pitch are now at the best that they can be. We are now a state-of-the-art club. And, it's just a great time to be here. So you can see here we've got new expectations set for the year. It doesn't look like there's anything too new here that I'm noticing. A lot of this is stuff that's just crept in over time. Don't sign players over 30, play attacking, play entertaining, high tempo, sign high reputation players, make the most of set pieces. Elsewhere, working within the wage budget, minimum 2-year contracts for first team players. A lot of this is just stuff I would be doing anyway. Sign youth players to develop for a profit is favoured. Obviously, that makes sense. We don't have a huge stadium. Just on the stadium front, I've seen loads of comments, especially yesterday, saying, Jack, build a new stadium. Do you think if I could, if I could ask for it, I wouldn't have already? I'm really aware of the fact that we have hit our stadium's max capacity. It's a little bit of a concern. Because the stadium was built in 2029, I cannot request as manager a new stadium until this ground is 20 years old. However, in FM20, a new change that was made was sometimes the board, of their own accord, without you asking, even if the stadium isn't 20 years old, will just build a new stadium. Unfortunately for us, despite filling our ground for the last however many years, that day has not come. So we are now kind of sat around hoping that eventually our board go, oh yeah, the new stadium, we will do it. I can't ask for a new stadium. I can't expand the current one because it's at the maximum expansion size size, so we kind of just have to deal with that, unfortunately. Anyway, you can see here, ongoing plan, maintain the best youth system in the country and maintain the best youth system in the world. There you go, Town Hall Town, best youth system in the world. In terms of expectations for next year, they want us to qualify for the Champions League and reach the semi-final of the Champions League. The year after that, they want us to win the Premier League again, challenge for silverware, and then just continue to win the Premier League. I mean, how hard can it be? As I said before, consistently winning the Premier League is not easy. And obviously that is going to be the big aim this year. You can see here, we've just won the Premier League. 20 players agree when I say we can be champions. 7 players doubting us. 7 players doubting us. I will say of these 7 players, there's a handful that will probably not be here next year. Either way, I decided to just say we'll lower the expectations because that seemed to appease most people. And, well, we can accept our vision there because there's nothing new, as I already said. It's kind of fairly standard at this point. So anyway, obviously we've talked about transfers, we've talked about all that good stuff. We hit with a tax bill, a commercial summary. I do feel like it's good to look at this stuff. So the club made 7.7 million shirt sales, with 4.12 million being domestic sales. Turnbull, then Norman, Kansina, Shvetsov and Andre, the highest selling shirts. I love the fact that Turnbull is there, and Norman as well. The English fans, they like the English players. Ooh. I mean, did he ever really give us some financial support? I thought you should know that Alexander Mutkin has indicated that he is withdrawing his financial backing of the club with immediate effect. He commented that he had enjoyed contributing to the club immensely, but felt the time was right to investigate financial opportunities in other areas, whilst also making it clear he would continue in his role of chairman. So, if you don't know, that basically means that our sugar daddy is a sugar daddy no more. Mr. Mutkin, when did you join us, Mr. Mutkin? You joined us a long time ago, to be fair. I'm going to struggle to find it. He joined in 2024, so he had an 11-year run of investing money into the club. We have to thank him for turning us professional and giving us a little bit of money, but ultimately, as far as sugar daddies go, he hasn't actually invested that much money into us. You can see commercial summary here, a load of new financial stuff coming in. I have just noticed here, our balance is sat at 428 million. Why is that so high? We've made 100 million profit this month. What came in this month? Oh, prize money. Prize money, and then the 60 million in sponsorship apparently came in as a lump sum. Last year we got 30 million in sponsorship. This year 63 million. That is pretty impressive. That gives you an idea of, you know, the reputation rise that we have had. Maybe we can become one of the big boys. Maybe we can become one of the giant clubs. You can see here, obviously, a comparison between this year and last year. Because we didn't win the Champions League, the competition prize money was never going to be as high. But everywhere else, it looks pretty blooming good. So anyway, let's have a little look at the squad. And we'll start with my personal awards. Of course, you can join in and leave your awards down in the comments. So for me, Player of the Year, who would I give Player of the Year to? It's a great question. I think I'd give it to... I want to say I'd give it to Leskinen, but I'm now remembering the fact that he's been sent off in loads of important games. You know what? I might give it to Matasovic, and I know some people will say that is entirely personal bias showing, but genuinely, he got 6 goals and 5 assists in 29 games from centre mid. He had a really good season in the Premier League. In fact, his average rating in all competitions was good. In the Champions League, he got a 7.82 average rating. He was pretty huge for us, and really, you know, for a player who at one point looked like he was going to be replaced and, disposed of midway through the season, he's really cracked on over the last couple of years, and I feel like we've really seen a climax to his development. He's now valued at £73 million, so clearly his development hasn't gone unnoticed. In terms of surprise package, I might give it to Sami Tanel, which might seem a little bit odd, but you know what? Like, he broke into the team a lot sooner than I thought, and we actually started to rely on him at left-back more than Deacon. Maybe it's a bit generous to give him surprise package. If I was going to give it to anyone else, I guess Markovski, perhaps, deserves a mention, just because the surprise with Markovski isn't himself, because I always knew he was going to be very, very good. But actually, the way he's come into the first team and just kind of tossed Jackie Auger to the side. Jackie Auger has been complaining about lack of first-team football, and given the fact he's valued at 55 million, there is a little bit of me that's tempted to move him on, particularly because we have got Cesar here, who, of course, we talked about last episode, but he's been on loan at Sevilla this year. Unfortunately, this chap doesn't have a work permit. I could really do with him getting the work permit, because if he does, I can get rid of Jackie Auger. You know, I wouldn't really think twice about it. But, this year we showed that we didn't need Jackie Auger necessarily. And, when you start to look at some of the players we've got out on loan and how much better they are than Jackie, and the fact he's valued at £55 million, there's definitely part of me that feels like it may be time to cash in. In terms of most improved player, that's a really tricky one as well. I feel like Kaiser is probably the man in the reckoning there. He came into the squad, of course, a few years ago. I think he expected to play more regularly than perhaps he had done initially. I will say in the last year he has shown really, really good signs of development. He has improved a lot as a player. His passing's gone up by 2, positioning up by 1, and just universal improvements. His weaknesses in his game are not really weaknesses anymore. And we are now at a point where I think he can definitely do a job at deep line playmaker, potentially ahead of Leskinen, although I will say, despite Leskinen's shortcomings in terms of his loving of getting sent off, I do feel like Leskinen, considering the role that this deep line playmaker has to play in the team, is certainly, going to be fighting for a spot with Kaiser next year. I think it's not really clear-cut who the player to play is there. And of course, Leskinen can play at centre mid, but we aren't going to have Holman joining us, the Argentine, which is definitely going to make things tricky. Anyway, in terms of clubman, player who served the club well, who would I give that to? I think I'd give it to Morrigan. Morrigan this year has had a crazy, crazy season. I know lots of people laugh at Morrigan. He kept 22 clean sheets in 37 league games. He kept 29 clean sheets in all competition. If I'm not mistaken, that is a Towel All Town record for most clean sheets in a year. Has had an incredible season. I know people love to look at the star ratings. I feel like they're always a little bit silly to look at. He's £45 million in value. He's 29 years old. He provides some valuable experience to the club. And of course, he is captain of the side as well. Was a hero last year in the Champions League. And in the Premier League this year, he kept more clean sheets than he did back when we were in the Championship, which really gives you an idea of how dominant he has been from a defensive point of view. In terms of disappointment of the season, I always feel like this one is a little bit harsh, but it has to go to Mateus Aurelio. Gave him a big wad of cash, gave him a brand new contract. He got 1 assist in 45 games in all competitions. Last year, by comparison, he got 20 assists in 49 games. So, yeah, that's 20 times less assists, which is a little bit of a concern, but that's also the way the Football Manager plays sometime. I've not changed the system, I've not changed the players around him, we've not changed how he fits into the first team, but compared to last year, he's just not been anywhere near as good, which is just, I don't know, it's just a little bit of a shame, I suppose. Anyway, in terms of top goal scorer at the club this year, it was Shvetsov followed by Cancina and Turnbull. Really did rotate the team quite a lot. You can see here, Portuguese Volta, 10 goals to his name. That is a really impressive contribution. Norman also chipped in with a decent amount. I know people will look at Norman's average rating being quite low. I think it's worth noting that Steve Norman often came on with 10 minutes left of games. So he'd come onto the pitch, play for 10 minutes, get a 6.6 average rating because he didn't have time to do anything. And that dragged down his average rating on the whole. Actually, when he started, he did a more than stellar job for us. He got 2 goals in the Champions League this year, 2 in the FA Cup as well. And the best thing of all is he's continued to develop. He is a really outstanding player, Stevie Norman. Obviously, there's a reason why the fans like to have his name on the back of their shirts, and the reason he's got the second most shirts sold. And at 21 years old, with a fairly professional personality, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him at the club, to be honest. In terms of assists, if we just have a quick peek here, Kaiser, Leskinen and Roth sharing the load, sharing the love. You can see between them, they all got 12 assists. But to be fair, when you look behind them, lots of players chipped in with a decent amount of assists. This was not a one-man show. It's not like with our system we have a singular playmaker we play through. This was, a real team effort on the whole, I feel like. Of course, relative to the rest of the Premier League, if we just have a quick look here, Shvetsov finished second top goal scorer with 21 goals, which is not a bad league goal total by any means. Clean sheets, Morrigan finished second, which I think is just a testament to how good Chelsea and Manchester United's defences were this year. On the whole, though, it's been a pretty good year. If we just look at average ratings, Leskinen in 8th, Kaiser in 10th, Cancina in 12th. We had players who showed up, but the unique thing about our team versus perhaps some other squads is we did rotate the team really, really heavily this year. There are very few players who played, every single game. You look at the likes of Morrigan, you look at the likes of Soretta. Sure, there are players that played, the best part of 40 games a year, but outside of some of the youngsters who we promoted to the first team for the sake of training, every single player got at least 10 starts this year, which is a pretty monumental effort, actually, when you think about it. Obviously, we've got Bubalo out on loan. He's going to be coming back. He is looking really, really exciting. Equally, we've got Roberto Gonzales, a player who's really developed under the radar, has been on loan at Coventry for the last few years. There is definitely part of me that feels like he can do a role in the team this year. I think if we compare him with Stevie Norman, you kind of realise how good Norman is. However, I do wonder if Gonzales could do a job as an advanced playmaker. I actually feel like this could be a really, really good role for him to have in the team. Potentially on off the bench, although that might mean that Volta has to make way. We are in a weird predicament now where we've got, multiple world-class players competing for the same spots in the team. There may need to be a little bit of cutthroatness and a little bit of harshness, I suppose, in how we go about our squad building over the summer. In terms of, we've just got so many stacked players, and there's certainly some players here who are good. I'm just not sure if they're ever going to make it in the first team. Perhaps, it's time to try and cash in on them if we can. I'm looking potentially at the likes of Ulises. I know that might seem really, really harsh, but valued at £27 million, with Holman coming in and a few other players. We paid $15 million for him. Played 10 games this year, didn't really shine. Looks like he might be playing close to his potential as well. I just don't see a way he features in the first team. Why not try and sell him whilst he's hot? He's £27 million in value, but given his age and given the time left on his contract, I feel pretty confident getting, in the region of 30 to 40 million pounds for him at the very least. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the squad hierarchy and dynamics. You can take a quick peek here. You can see the hierarchy. Shvetsov, Leskinen and Morrigan considered the team leaders. Behind them, the likes of Turnbull, Andre Soretta, Aurelio and Auger, along with Andy Eric, Rolf Maticevic, Norman, Deacon and Volta. It's interesting, actually, because we've had so little turnover in our players, we've just got a load of highly influential players at this point, players who have been around the club for a number of years. The last couple of seasons really haven't been about rebuilding the team from its core. It's been about adding one or two flashes of quality and just kind of letting and waiting for the rest of the team to develop, and that is obviously starting to pay off in a very, very big way right now. If we just look at the social groups, for people wondering, you can see here, everyone is part of a social group. There is a core group, of course, but I don't know, everyone gets along with each other. We're a big, happy family. We might not enjoy everyone's company, but between the three social groups, everyone's got a shoulder to lean on, someone to talk to, which I suppose is the main thing after all. Anyway, if we just take a look at the general overview of the club, Sonny Best has fallen into the category of icon. He is no longer considered a legend at the club, which feels a little bit harsh considering he is still an under-18s coach here. But in terms of the rest of the team, you can see Kumwenda, Dazelle and their space in the Legends category. The fact that Shvetsov and Turnbull haven't made it into the Legends category yet seems mental to me, but I guess that's the way things work. You can see Adrian Highland, of course, out on loan this year, playing in Spain, a player who I will probably look to sell on this summer, is considered a favourite personnel. Jimmy Molyneux as well at 20 years old. He's living it up in Lorient in France. He's loving his life. Obviously already talked about Shuttleworth, who was in Bristol. And Leighton Stewart, considered an icon. He's now a scout at the club. We signed him as a scout during this year. Keeping it in the family. You'd love to see it. Unfortunately, we've not had any of the dynamic rivalries develop. I would love to start getting a rivalry developing with Man City. Rivalries are dynamic in FM. I feel like we need to play a few more finals against Man City, and maybe that will start to happen. I don't mean any disrespect to Concerts, but at this point, they're not really. We've played them once in the last 17 years. They're not really rivals anymore. I mean, sorry, you're not in our league. I'm afraid that's the way it works. Anyway, talking about the facilities, already touched upon them really, but the stadium is at its maximum capacity, unfortunately. But we have got state-of-the-art training, youth and data analyst facilities. Our corporate facilities are good. Still hoping a new stadium might be on the horizon. I guess that is something we have to be patient about. And in terms of the history page, you can see here, our trophy cabinet is filling up. It feels so sweet to see a Premier League cup there, a Premier League trophy just sat on our screen. Unfortunately, you can see here, this graph hasn't quite updated to show us winning the Premier League just yet, so we can't revel in that just yet. And in terms of records and an overview, I will pause here. Feel free to have a look through. I'm sure there's some stuff that I've missed. But most goals in a game, Shvetsov. Most assists in a season, Sonny Best. Most clean sheets, Morrigan. As I said, setting a record this year. Highest gate receipts was Macclesfield Town, apparently back in 2032. Lowest attendance of 77. how times have changed. Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. I suppose to end today's episode, let's have a quick look at the personal profile of my manager before we have a little bit of a look forward. So you can see here, in terms of relationships, best relationships, Quinton Fortune, our former staff member, another one of our under-18 staff. He went off to Burnley midway through this year. Ben Barkley, another one of our former staff. He is he was our assistant manager at under-18s for a while. He went to Lincoln City. They've actually let him go. Do you want to come back and be our under-18s coach or something? No, he doesn't. And Mr. International, for people wondering, where is Mr. International? He was sacked as Crawley Town manager 3 years ago. Do you want to come back and be an under-18s coach? Let's get Mr. International back. Let's get the gang back together. In terms of worst opinions, Ben Holmes. He's held a grudge now for the past 14 years. 14 years and he still holds a grudge against me. Retired as a player in 2032, has spent the last 3 years looking for his first job as a manager. I wonder why he's not got one. I can't think of a reason. Anyway, you can see here some of our known fors and that kind of stuff. If we just have a quick look at our attributes, I'm pretty sure we're getting close to peaking our attributes. I'm not really sure they're going to improve much more, but they are very, very good nevertheless. A few 20s in there, considering if you were to go back and look at episode 1 where they were just a sea of 1s. It's a reasonable improvement, isn't it? You can see here, games played 874, goals for 1,960, won 552 of those games, only lost 169. Nice. Yeah, it's not been a bad time, has it really? You can see here, total value of players bought, 769 million, total value of players sold, 860 million. We're making a profit. Highest fee received is Marlon Ox, who we sold this January. Still think it's mad that he ended up going to China, but I mean, we got £60 million for him, so I'm not going to complain one little bit. And actually, when you look at the fees that we've paid to agents, we've made a really healthy profit over the years here at the club. 5,800 days at the club, 0 days spent on holiday, everyone. Can we get around 0 days, Jack? Good self-restraint not to just holiday a day or two through the summer or something, although I've never really been someone about that. You can see here, 5 cups won, 8 leagues won, 10 promotions, 1 relegation. I hate that 1 relegation so much. It just ruins everything. It tarnishes my legacy. Anyway, in terms of aims for next year, I want to win the Premier League again. I want to get further than the quarter-final in the Champions League. I do feel like to win the Premier League and Champions League is going to be a very tall order. Let's try and aim for it. We know that we can win both individually, but the challenge of winning both simultaneously cannot be understated. You definitely need some luck there. In terms of the squad positions to address, obviously we've got Holman coming in at centre mid. As I said, at some point we will be streaming some of the summer transfer window, so I will talk more about what we are doing then. I may upload some highlights to YouTube. I'm not entirely sure yet. Maybe I will just upload the stream as a VOD or something as an extra upload. But yeah, obviously we've got Holman coming in at centre mid. I feel like the fullback position may be something to look at. I know that Nico's not got the best average rating, but actually 12 assists was pretty good. Aurelio got 6 assists in all competition, but only 1 in... I was going to say 1 in the league. I actually misread it earlier. It was 1 goal in the league. He got 3 assists in the league. 2 in non-competitive games. No, 2 in the FA Community Shield. I can't read. Please help me, everyone. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like he needs replacing. He's a world-class right-back. He's just had 1 bad year. And, of course, he had 1 bad year when he first joined, and then he had a really good year. So maybe it's time for another good year. Maybe it's going to be an alternating pattern. If that is the case, I can kind of live with it. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap up everything from me today. I want to say thank you very much for your support on this series. It's worth noting that last season I didn't do an end-of-season review, and there was only 1 comment mentioning the fact I didn't do it. People just didn't seem to realise. So I would like to know if you've got to the end, do you enjoy these videos? Is there anything you would like to see done differently? I would be curious to know any thoughts and anything like that you have down in the comments. Anyway, guys, that is going to be all from me today. Thank you so much for your support on this series as always. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.